Hey guys, so Stampin' Up! Announced this month that they were doing something called, it's the watercolor month, which I love watercoloring. I've been with Stampin' Up! Since 2008, and they've had lots of different things that they've used for watercoloring, and they still do. And there's so many different ways that you don't even maybe even think you could watercolor that way, but you can. So I'm going to make two videos. First one, obviously this one right here. I'm going to show you how I watercolored on these three cards. And then the next one, which I'll post in a couple days, I'm going to show you how I watercolored on three more cards, but it was 4 different techniques. So this will be just a quick video. I'm not going to show you how I put together the whole card. I'll explain what's on there and everything, but it won't be anything that takes 20 minutes for each card. So we're going to start with this one. Let me get everything I need for that, and then we'll get started. Okay, so here's the card. What I'm using is Nature's Harvest stamp set. It has matching dies. The grass that you see on here, I use the Palms dies, this right here for the grass. So just one little different thing. This background paper, this is awesome paper. Let's see, this is all of it right here. It is called Design a Daydream. It is a Hostess, so you can't buy this, but you can earn it for free when you place a $150 or more order. And it's really pretty. There's the birds right there, like I used on it. I've used a lot of it, and I'm sure I'll show you some other cards I've made using it. But okay, so here's the daisies right here. What I have here is some of the watercolor paper. And this technique is typically if you want to color in a stamp, especially watercolor or with the blends, you cannot use one of the regular ink pads. But this is a little bit of a different technique. So just using crumb cake. This technique is to use a light, regular kind of ink, so crumb cake or Sahara sand or something like that, light. Okay, so there's my flowers. And now I'm going to get my I can't remember what they're called. I have them written down everywhere. But anyway, these water brushes, okay? Should have a paper towel over here. Okay, so I'm just getting it wet. Okay, so the colors I'm using are Flirty Flamingo, Old Olive, and Daffodil Light. So what you want to do for these is you push down, because you don't want to stick the paintbrush, water painters, that's what they are. There you go. That's what these are, water painters. You push down so that you get some ink in the lid there, and that's what you want for a lot of watercoloring. There's Old Olive, and then Flirty Flamingo. Okay, so that's what I'm doing for all of this. Let's see, I just can't get, it might be, oh, here it goes. Okay, so I'll just start with Flirty Flamingo. Let me zoom in on here a little bit. Now, watercoloring, I've always said, you could ask any of the people that have come to my classes over the last several years, watercoloring, if it goes outside the line, I don't care. I like the way that looks because that's kind of what I think of when I think of watercolor stuff. Sorry, I had to get a piece of paper towel. All right, so then the other two, I'm going to do a Daffodil Delight. So the reason why you don't use regular ink is because when you put water on it, it's going to make it bleed a little bit. But when you use a light one like this, you're not going to notice it as much. I mean, if it's going to look really good. And so I like that technique. This is, I mean, you obviously with these, you can color them in with blends. There's lots of different ways to color them in. And I just, especially when it's flowers or something, I just think it's really cool when it looks like this. Okay, and then forgot, I'm gonna go back to crumb cake and stems. Oh, I missed a leaf. I think I did that the first time I did this. I missed a leaf. And then up here on the tops of the flowers, on the bottom of this one. And then back to Old Navy. It's a store. Old Olive. Okay, so there you go. That is how to watercolor one way. I die cut it after I did that. The thank you is from the stamp set. The little, what the thank you is cut out with is from the dies. See, that just went in my ink. Okay, so let me put all this away and we'll make the next card. Okay, here's our next card. I love this one. I love pumpkins. Yeah, I love this one. And this is a really easy watercolor technique too. They're all pretty easy. Okay, so this is the Hello Harvest. This is from the mini catalog. I'm gonna use the pumpkin, obviously. And I'm also gonna use the Hello. That's actually a little different way of watercoloring. So actually I am teaching you 4 things tonight too. All right, I'm just gonna use the back of this. Okay, so the colors I'm doing, Daffodil, Pumpkin Pie, and Cajun Craze. And then the leaves are Old Olive. And this has dies that goes with it, so that's what I would do after I colored them and let them dry. So you can still see it. It's really one of my favorites. Okay, so start with Daffodil. Okay, so I'm gonna do one at a time. And what you do with this, I hope you can see this. So I stamped it in Daffodil and I got this out and look what happens. The color, because you're using water, because these ink pads are not waterproof, it starts to bleed when you're putting the water on. So it's a really cool way to color. I mean, you could do this, oh my gosh, you could do it with so many different kinds of stamps. I mean, lots of different things. Okay, so there's the Daffodil one. I'll just show you one more color and then you'll get the idea. This is the Cajun Craze. Okay, and I got a little bit of ink on the middle, but it doesn't really matter. This one's really dark. But when you water it down like this, they're not as dark as they would be if you're stamping like a solid image or something, obviously. I mean, I just think this is so cool how you can make those pumpkins look. And I did want to show you the leaf, because the leaf is not a color in stamp, but I did the same thing as I did with those. So you see when it's all inked up, it's got ink over all of it. Okay. But I went in and I just started to soften it up a little bit or make it look very watercolored. Obviously, that's exactly what watercolor looks like. So that's what those are. Okay, so that's how I did the pumpkins and the leaves. And then of course I die cut them. The paper is the gingham paper from the mini catalog. I love it. I've used it for lots of things. I'll even, for one of the cards I make for the next video, you'll see it again. It's really good. But the hello, and that's also from this stamp set, Hello Harvest. Okay, so what I did for hello is I did it on watercolor paper, and I did it with StazOn because I wanted to add some color to it. I just closed those for no reason. But okay, so then because if I did that in the Memento ink and then I did water, got some ink on it and started running, it would make the hello bleed. You wouldn't be able, it wouldn't even say hello anymore. Because what we're doing to the pumpkins, it's not going to work for a word. See what I'm saying? So hello. Ugh. All right, so there's hello. What I did, I die cut it with the Stylish Shapes, this one right here, so kind of big. I die cut it before I started coloring it and stuff, and I do the same thing as I did on the first card with the stuff down here, and I just sort of just made lines. And I did it with all the colors except for green. I didn't do the old olive. But because it stays on, it's not going to mess up the hello. See, so it sort of just, when it was just all white, it just sort of stood out too much, like not good. So I just sort of went in there with it, and I love the way that came out. And of course, if you do that every time, it's going to look different because it's never going to be the same. Okay, so that's how I made that card. That's the watercoloring for that, is you're using regular ink and you're stamping it, and then your water painter, and you're going in there and making it bleed. It's just really cool. I think that's one of my favorite ones and gives you a lot of options. And that card's fast. That's another great thing. All right, I'll clean this up, then I'll show you the last card. Okay, this card, which the only Halloween stamp set I have so far is the Bewitching, which is obviously the hat and her legs and feet, and it has a matching punch. There's no sentiment in it, but I mean, when I did this, I was like, I mean, obviously if you saw this, you knew that this was a Halloween card for sure. But this is a really cool technique. This time we're not using watercolor painter, we're using the shimmery white paper, okay? And this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna want like a bowl of water. I'm gonna use the big brush from the water painters, and I'm just gonna make this wet like that, okay? And what I used on this, I used grape and pumpkin pie. I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to use Pool Party, Coastal Cabana, and Bermuda Bay, and see how that goes. Probably should have had this inked up before I did all this, but never even done it with a coastal paint. Let's see. Oh, some of these might need to be re-inked. Some of these colors I use all the time. Yeah, that needs to be re-inked. Okay. And this one probably does too. All right, well, I put water on that too fast. Let me go re-ink these, or maybe I'll just, you know what? I'm not even gonna stop it. I'm gonna go and get the ones I used for that one. I was gonna try and do something different, but that's okay. All right, here's Gorgeous Grape. I started with him. Just go in there, same thing. Put more water on there. Okay, and then Pumpkin Pie. Obviously, Gorgeous Grape and Pumpkin Pie are a lot darker than this, but because you're watering it down, you're not, it's not going to be as bright or deep or dark. You could do this like I was going to do with 3 blues. That would be a good background. Like if my idea was for the lighthouses, I was going to do something with that, with it being all blue in the background. But that wasn't going to work. Okay, so there it's, now it's very wet, so you have to let it dry. And I also take my big block and put it on top of it, like overnight, to flatten it out. The rest of the stuff I use on here, I use the Fabulous Frames, and I use the white glimmer paper that's in the mini catalog. That's real red and white. You get both. Gingham ribbon, and then obviously that stamp set, and just put it on top. Very simple, but a very pretty, very noticeable card. So that's how you do that. Like I said, you could do all colors, you could do swirls, you could do, I mean, you could do a million different things, but that's a real easy technique and really fun. And that, like I said, is with shimmery paper, not watercolor paper. The shimmery paper is different than like the basic white. Obviously it's sparkly, but it's also, it's a little thicker, so it can handle water better. The basic white, you could maybe do like a little teeny type of watercoloring on there, maybe a little bit, but nothing like what I just showed you. It wouldn't be able to handle that before pilling up and stuff. So, okay, so that's 3 of the techniques. I'll have a PDF that shows you all the techniques I show in this video and the next one. And I'll have all the supplies listed for these 3 cards that I showed you. I have all the supplies listed on my website, so you can see everything I used for each one of them. I hope everyone's having a great day. Take care.